if you don't really know what is communion and what Holy Communion is for you, is all about, then spiritual communion will mean nothing for you. Before the pandemic, when you come into the church and during the time of communion, you walk up to receive communion, what is in your mind? What are you going to receive? That is the first question for each and every one of Christians, especially Catholics that go to receive communion. Am I going to receive really Christ? Is it Christ that I'm going to receive? Or am I going to receive communion because it is my turn? It is the turn of those in my pew to get up and go and receive that thing. Once we understand what we are receiving, then Holy Communion, spiritual communion will mean a hell lot for us. So, if Holy Communion is something that I understand, that is something that is very special to me, is something that I know that is really, really presence, Christ's presence there, that I'm going to receive, Christ, then there should be some preparation for that. There should be some disposition. So that is the first thing we have to establish before we talk about spiritual communion. Because once we understand that that Holy Communion I'm receiving is the real presence of Christ, that I'm receiving Christ, which draws me closer to him, then that is when the spiritual communion means something for me. That is where the faith comes in. That is where I make myself available for that. That is where I am inviting Christ, placing myself as if I am in the church to receive Christ again. So the best way to receive Jesus Christ is in the Holy Communion at Mass. That is the best way. Yet, for those times and for those people who cannot attend the Mass due to this pandemic or some certain circumstances, they cannot receive Holy Communion sacramentally. That is where the spiritual communion comes in. You can now make a spiritual communion in prayer. And that is why during that Mass, which you join us, during the time of communion, we say the prayer for the spiritual communion. Because you have already known that this is what I do, this is what I know, this is what I want. And I am receiving Jesus Christ. Then I invite Jesus Christ to come in.
But to me, the Eucharist and communion is that absolute thought, knowledge of participation in God's being with us every second of every single day. It's not just when we're in the church and, receiving communion that we should be able to feel that, particularly in such a difficult year like this one, where in our day-to-day lives, for those, many hours a week when we're not able to be with an assembly of our own peers, it's just that constant anchor of I'm never alone. There's always hope, regardless of the doom and gloom that we may hear in our day-to-day lives.